to talk about myself and see photos of myself out there. But I do want to give a shout out to Jordan because she did those headshots. They look really good. So when Mark asked me to do this, I was trying to think of how do I even introduce myself. I'm pretty sure my friends don't even really know what I do. I think my husband might be the only person who understands. But he's like, maybe he still doesn't know what I do. And so instead of really giving myself a title, I thought I'd run you through a creative blooper reel of what my creative life has looked like. And then we'll start talking a little bit about what that means in the world of being soft. So like I said, I've done a lot of really rogue things, so if you're not to judge me or diagnose me, I definitely have that curse where you pick up a lot of different hobbies and set it down and then try and make every hobby into a business. That's who you're talking to today. So like Mark said, I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee, and by rite of passage became a musician and did that professionally for a couple of years. I even did songwriting as a major. You do that, you didn't know. And it was really fun for a long time. It broke me open. It really got me into my feelings until realizing that LinkedIn didn't really have any songwriter roles listed like ever. And so I had to make a bit of a pivot. So that's when I discovered YouTube. This is gonna be a long year, guys, just keywords, with flashy. So I discovered YouTube and grew my channel to 24 million views. And at the age of 19, when most of my fans were over the age of 54, I'm just gonna talk, is that okay? Can you guys hear me back there if I talk loud enough? Okay. Yeah, it was just a weird time to be 19 and just have a bunch of 54-year-old men watching me and supporting me. So I got out of that really, really fast and tried to figure out what can I do with this skill set of songwriting and video production and just quirky little things. And so I started doing video production and branding and graphic design and copywriting and marketing, all the stuff I was doing for myself, for other brands and other artists and other musicians. And then that's where I found Startup World. And Startup World was when I discovered technology and how they usually pay their bills on time, and they're not like musicians and artists who really can't afford much for these types of services.
Hello, thank you so much.
And then I became a mom. My kids surprised me today. It's really sweet coming up here. I became a mom, and while I was freelancing, they definitely are some of the hardest clients I've ever had in my life. They don't ever pay their invoices. Maybe one day. In the form of chores, if you not do with dishes. And then I launched a mobile app. A bunch of people that I really looked up to told me not to do it, and I was like, no, I'm gonna do it anyways. And they were totally right. It was a really bad idea. It was really, really hard, and I knew nothing. But it got me into finally a specialty. I got into UX, UI, and discovered product design. And that's when I got my first actual corporate real job, where I wasn't having to hustle and chase down new skills and chase down paychecks. During that time, I got a little bored, so I started a skateboarding shop and started skateboarding because my husband skates and my best friend skates. These two got me into skating over here. And started a skate shop and designed boards, and that was fun for a while. Didn't really make much money, mostly enough to just cover one ER visit that I had to have. Started a podcast with some friends that last 2 episodes, realized the world needed more podcasts. And then just really got comfortable with the 401k and realized like I don't need to be chasing all these things and all these curiosities. I got really comfortable with the health insurance and the bonuses and the equity and just leaned more into my corporate life. And had a lot of fun doing that for a long time because I was surrounded by a lot of great people at that time. Life was good, the hustle was over, I felt like everything was stable, and I realized like, oh, this is how people afford mortgages, this is how people buy houses, like, this is amazing, I get it now. Until it really wasn't as comfortable. I went through 2 layoffs in 2 years, one when I was 36 weeks pregnant, and that was probably the hardest thing I've been through. Over the last 2 years, I've really been questioning how much do I love this corporate world. Thankfully, I have been in the job that I have now for a year this week. I literally just escaped a round of layoffs this week, so I definitely searched for an hour. But I realized, woke up recently, noticing that I've been dying this slow, polite death through subconsciously choosing this corporate life over and over again, the safety that it brought me. I realized I had traded this soft creativity that I used to have for rigid safety, OKRs, deadlines. Everything made sense. I didn't really have to think too much about what things meant, as long as I knew I hit the deadline, and I knew I got enough clicks for the company, I knew I got enough people onboarded, then everything makes sense. Nothing was scary. And I think a lot of people do this when life gets scary, they choose safety. It's totally normal. The issue is that it was always hungry. This machine, this safety, was always needing to be fed. It needed data, metrics, proof. It needed my sleep. It needed my joy. It needed my time away from my family. It just was hungry all the time. And I know safety matters to an extent, like mortgages are real, rent is real, groceries are real. But everything that I was making at that time had to justify itself with some sort of metric. And because of that, I lost this really soft, creative part of myself. And I felt like I betrayed the art that I wanted to make. I was silencing it for this rigid safety. I learned recently that 100 years ago, I'm curious if anyone else has heard about this, but a group called the Vienna Circle. Has anyone heard about that? You to me as well. A group called the Vienna Circle decided that only things you could prove were meaningful. So only things that you could measure or test everything else didn't matter. And that mindset never really left. I feel like it snuck into our art, our music, our feeds, on social media. We walk through museums with our phones up, scanning QR codes just to understand more about where the Haiti came from or what it means, instead of sitting there and asking, how does this make me feel? Or what could the artist be feeling at this time? We're always asking, what does it mean? We skip songs after 10 seconds. Our live society will be like, we rarely digest things anymore. We just sample a lot of different things, as we were real at the beginning. We rarely make art anymore that makes you feel something. We make it to perform well, at least the world that I've been living in the last couple of years. Songs that I used to write that once broke me open, that I would write just because I wanted to, just because it made me feel something, are now reason not enough to write it, because it's not going to perform, it's not going to reach some type of monetary goal. And so you might be asking me, how do you recognize this soft creativity? How do you get out of this death loop of rigid security? And how do you recognize soft creativity when it comes along? It's hard, it's squishy, and it is hard to put a definition to it. It's uncomfortable, I will say. If you have been in this rigid safety world like I have been, stepping into soft creativity is uncomfortable, and I think that is the very first sign of recognizing, I'm doing something interesting here. And more so, you just can't measure soft creativity, you can only feel it, and it takes a lot of practice. Some good examples are it's negative space in a photo. When you look at certain photos, you're like, why does this just feel good? And it's because there's all this negative space around certain things, and the artist knew what to put into focus or not to put into focus. It's improvised jazz, one of probably the most crazy examples, but it is. If you've seen improvised jazz versus someone recording to a click track, it's just a very different feeling. You can't put words to what that feels like. It's really art that rearranges you. And I hope that everyone knows what that feels like when you see it. Ultimately, soft creativity is what keeps us from calcifying, becoming rigid, becoming hard. It's creating and consuming something bigger than ourselves, bigger than our bosses or our brands. It doesn't compete, it coexists. It coexists even with rigid safety, because the rigidness gives us some type of floor to work with, and then the soft gives everything else meaning. Here's the catch. Softness is terrifying, especially for people like me, highly anxious girlies. It's unpredictable, it's vulnerable, it's scary, you can't control how it's received. On the opposite side, rigidness promises the safety, right? Ship the feature, hit the metric, nobody gets hurt. Softness says, make something honest, sit down, slow down. And right now the world feels really hard and scary for a lot of people. But we have been here before, so I want to show you some things that have given me hope on how every time life or the world has gotten very difficult, soft creativity has shown up time and time again to kind of withstand the rigid safety. So during the Great Depression, when people didn't have anything, hope looked a lot like art. Photographers like Dorothea Lange turned poverty into empathy, reminding people that struggle had face. Thomas Hart Benton's painting turned hard labor into poetry with movement and rhythm. I mean, we probably have some Bachelor of Arts in here, but I wouldn't be able to tell you why this feels like it's flowing, but it feels like it's flowing. There's probably a reason for it, but it's more of a feeling than a definition. Picasso painted war at his home in Paris in response to the bombing of the town in northern Spain by Nazi Germany. Huge, chaotic, terrifying, but somehow it made people feel again. And that is a really good example of soft creativity by using art to stare at pain and fear in the eyes instead of being numb. And then the civil rights era, Nina Simone sang truth so raw that radio stations banned her songs. James Baldwin, it's always interesting when you see James Baldwin close recircling in life. You know that is a period, people are going through things. It is a hard time for people in the world. James Baldwin wrote essays that still hurt and sting today because they were way too honest to age. Empathy and grief and joy through music and dance became rebellion, all through jazz and soul music. In the 1980s, we had the AIDS crisis, and when an entire community was hurting and people in power looked away, artists painted joy on walls, bright colors. They screamed into the silence so that they could still be heard. This is softness as survival. I think if I'm to reflect on kind of my experience, I've always looked at rigid safety as survival, but time and time again we keep seeing that softness lasts and survives more than rigid safety. And then this is my favorite one. And when the system hardened again in the world, in Europe, creativity yelled right back, spray paint, safety pins, mosh pits. Mosh pits are probably the best example of soft creativity. I've never experienced violence so tender in my life, ever, and kind. The funk and street scene said, you can't stop us from feeling or creating, we're still gonna do it anyways. So every time the world has gotten hard and rigid, softness has found a way. And I don't want to try to position this that art is going to fix everything, and I don't mean that at all. But I do think it keeps us human and grounded enough to keep trying to do better, to keep trying to have hope when things get really, really rigid. So this isn't new. Soft creativity has always been what's gotten us through the hard stuff. We leave and return to it time and time again. So lately I've been trying to find my way back to this. How can I balance my corporate work life with soft creativity and back to romanticizing art and romanticizing life, just for the sake of it. So not needing to prove every idea is worth making, not waiting for permission from myself or anyone else. Soft creativity doesn't need to be useful. I think that's the most important thing in my life, at least, is to stop questioning, should I make this because it's going to help someone, or it's going to help pay my bills, or it's going to get attention, or it's going to go viral. I think we've silenced a lot of the things we want to make by trying to make everything useful. So soft creativity just exists. It doesn't need to be useful. So here's what that looks like for me, in case you're wondering how to return that place, and some ideas on what that could look like. So for me, it's like dancing with friends, going out with friends and dancing. It's open mics for spoken word, or open mics for songwriting and local artists. It's journaling, it's learning a new recipe or just making up a new recipe. It's backyard art shows. We did one of these a couple months ago where we hosted our friend who's not a professional artist but does really amazing work, and wanted to celebrate him, and that was really, really awesome to have soft creativity show up in our backyard like that. Home videos, or even just like the TikTok that you've been thinking of making for a while, like just make the TikTok. Paint a wall in your house. Unfortunately, I've done that too many times to count, and half of them are still unpainted. Make up a game. Make up a whole new game that doesn't have to abide by anyone else's rules except for yours. So yeah, scary is soft is very scary. But so is rigid safety. Rigid safety was a lot like control, rules, deadlines. Softness looks more like connection, like things that we're doing today. Like Nadia was saying, like this whole week with Design Week. Time and time again, this is what continues to survive. So thank you for letting me be soft with you today and being soft with me. I want to leave you guys with this quote, as cringe as that is by James Baldwin. The precise role of the artist is to make the world a more human dwelling place. And to be very honest, I don't think we find a lot of that in corporate work. As we do, it's usually because we're trying to justify us being there. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. We have to survive, we have to make money. But my hope is that you can start taking those things you've been wanting to make in the back of your mind and go out this weekend. Just make something that is useful, what feels good. I want to actually have Jordan come recite a manifesto. So yesterday I went to Salt Lake Event Store and share this, and I was like, this is going to be perfect for, I think, this topic. So I'll let her talk about it. She wrote a manifesto about creativity and hearts, and it was kind of made me tear up when she shared it.
That's so nice. Okay. So nervous. Okay. So I'm starting a design collective with a few friends, and this is our manifesto. We're targeted towards tech and just new businesses. That's the background. Joy is infrastructure, play is protest, technology is not neutral. We are designing against diversion, against the slow hollowing out of meaning, presence, and care. We are designing against platforms that harvest our attention, our time, ourselves. We are not here to distract, we are here to repair. We believe technology should nourish, not extract. Design is not just utility, it is a value system, a set of rituals, a worldview. Every interface teaches us how to be human with each other, with machines, and with ourselves. Play is not escape, play is resistance. We reject frictionless design that treats effort as inefficiency, infinite scroll engagement metrics, and digital ghosts of our labor. Systems that scale by flattening nuanced and diary agency, the idea that bigger is better, that growth is the goal. We admit to making small, strange, and beautiful things, building with sociality and not surveillance, blending analog and digital as a form of cracking, designing with people, not for users, leaving space for joy, slowness, and care. We made devices that need something human to function. We create rituals, not features. We don't ship minimum viable products. We cultivate maximum meaningful presence. We are not anti-technology. We are anti-extraction. We are designers, builders, caretakers. We are part of a lineage of BDS punks, radical software dreamers, Z-makers, angry web tinkerers, artists with wires, and technologists with soul. We build to nourish the future. Cut people.